Namaskar, I am Limbu Chandra Bahadur, a student of second semester Master of Philosophy in English Education from Nepal Open University in English. Today, I present a short video on why literary translation is a good model for translation theory and practice by Maria Timosco. This text has 10 subtopics which are assigned to of us by Mr. Keshb Sigdel and Miss Pratima Bhattarai, tutors of translation studies from Nepal Open University, as an part of an assignment. So the first half part I am going to present as my part, and rest part will be presented by my friend Mr. Chandramani Mahato. So in this very first slide I talk highlights of presentation. Here I talk introduction of literary terms as well as the writers. Next, literary language is a language read, large, and it best eliminates the role of language in translation theory and practice. Next, I shall talk cultural asymmetries in literature translation, content and context in translation theory. Second last, I talk beyond semantic meaning, theorizing function and the semantics of literary form. And finally, I talk decision making and the metonymics of translation. Now, it's the introduction. Maria Fleming Timosco is the full name of writer. She was born in Cleveland, Ohio, the United States in 1943. She is a scholar of comparative literature, writing translation, medieval Celtic literature, and modern Irish literature too. She is also a professor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst and a former president of Celtic Studies Association of North America. Now it's the time for literary translation and translation studies. These are the two terms. Literary translation, a process of translating literary genres like poetry, plays, literary books. It can also include literary texts such as songs, rhymes, literary articles. On the other, translation studies an interdisciplinary which touches on other diverse fields of knowledge, and it also includes comparative literature, cultural studies, and gender studies, and so on. I talk in this very slide regarding the contributors who especially paid more attention to develop translation studies. Here first I talk regarding linguists who have really contributed to develop translation studies such as Roman Jacobson, J.C. Catford, literary scholars such as G.D. Levy, Anton Povich, on the other Marilyn Gaddis Rose in the United States, and from Israel, Theo Hammons, Itamar Ivan Johar, and Gideon Torrey. And finally, some of the scholars who really contributed in developing translation theories are James Holmes, Josh Lambert, Henry Lafferty. And now I talk regarding theory and model in translation. Theory, a set of ideas, a group of facts or hypotheses which are established by experiment or the observation, and finally they are accepted as an accounting to know as the facts, as stated by Timosco 2007. And the other model which is necessary in developing and testing theory in order to make sense of a large and complex collection of data, cited by Timosco 2007. Similarly, model provides simplified schematics for positing and testing theoretical hypotheses, parameters, and principles. Now, I talk about literary language is language writ large and it best illuminates the role of language in translation theory and the practice. Literary language is a language rich and complex, exemplifying full range of linguistic phenomena, and literature and literary translation so exemplify every language and language topology, which is also known from sufficient data. Literary tends to include both marked and unmarked examples of syntax and morphology, and literary texts on the other, they present simple or multiple dialogues and registers with technical language. Now, it's the turn for cultural asymmetries in literary translation, content and context in translation theory. Literary translation provides the best model for exemplifying both sorts of cultural asymmetries encountered in translating. In literary theory, literature is viewed as involving the interface of content, text, intertext, and context, as cited by Wharton and Steele 1990. And literary translation involves transposition, it means changing of the content of a source text to a representation in another cultural context. Now this is my second last part of this presentation. Here I talk beyond semantic meaning, theorizing function, and the semantics of literary form. Meaning is both language specific and conditioned by contextual relevance. So when we try to understand the meaning of the text, then we should interpret contextual relevance too, as functional meaning is explored or theorized in translation studies, cited by Nida 1964. So meaning can be go beyond the linguistic meaning because of diverse forms, and when we try to change the form of any literary genre from maybe poetic to the prose or maybe story to the prose, during that time there may be the loss of semantic meaning or maybe the loss of the values. Inter-semantic translation exemplifies embedded and nested quality of semantic system. So finally, I talk decision making and the metonymics of translation. Here, necessity of making decisions in translating and interpreting results from linguistic and cultural anisomorphisms and asymmetries. No translation is able to capture every aspect of a source text as much as by a creator of the text, and translator must choose about what features of a source text to prioritize and privilege. And lastly, complexity of literary works and multiple translations set decisions of translators and metonymics aspect of translating in high relief. So saying this much, I am going to conclude my presentation. Thank you.